Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our show. This show is The Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market, that is, the crypto market, the NFT market, and the market where the coins go up expeditiously. On a Monday, it's Monday, the 14th of July. Today, we got loaded up for discussion. Bitcoin hitting a new all time high. It's at 122,000, or at least that was the price when I checked last. It might be higher already. It's become the world's fifth largest asset. We'll be talking about that. We'll be talking about Sharplink Gaming adding another 16,000 ETH worth around $49 million on Sunday. We'll be thinking about the ways to get exposure to ETH, if that is a narrative we are buying into and believing in. And then finally, almost forgot about this one because it feels so long ago. On Saturday, Pump Fund did sell out its $500 million at a $4 billion valuation. It sold out in very short time period, in minutes. Hyperliquid perps are trading. The hyperliquid pre-market is trading around 6 bill when I last checked. So we'll talk about that too. We've got all kinds of fun stuff to talk about today. Usual where capital and attention is flowing. Got Legendary in the co-host seat. We're ready to get into it. But just a reminder before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice, because despite the price just keep going up, we don't know anything for sure. Nothing is certain. So please proceed with caution, exercise your own judgment, because this is not financial advice. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Monday. It's the 14th of July. I have conflicting emotions today, but I'm curious, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
GM. Oh, I'm feeling awesome. It's this time of the market where you just wake up and you think you're a genius because everything you touch is going up. And obviously, that's not going to last forever. But I do think that these next couple of weeks will be pivotal to seize a good amount of opportunities. And it's a great feeling to wake up and see BTC at 122K, to be honest.
Pretty crazy. I definitely have not mentally adjusted. I feel, I don't know, maybe I've just been doing this for a while now. I feel nothing with Bitcoin at 122. Like, Bitcoin at 122 makes a significant, meaningful difference to my portfolio, because I've spoken about before, like being like properly exposed to Bitcoin means your portfolio is always going to go healthily if you are kind of in this industry for a long time, because it means you can keep getting all-time highs with Bitcoin. But I kind of feel nothing still. Like, it almost feels like this is what Bitcoin was supposed to do, and therefore I feel nothing. Is that although I'll tell you what I feel in a second, Ledge, but just curious for your thoughts on that feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm different. Like when things go the way they are supposed to
You
go,
like a celebration.
it's still rewarding. Like, I think we do a banger clip on the show and we think this is gonna do well on YouTube and it does like I don't know, a couple K views or whatever. And yeah, this is exactly, the thesis landed and fulfilled, and it's a good feeling.
You should be in charge of modern market celebrations. We've been talking about like dividing up responsibilities. You would excel at that, because I think you're better at that than me. One thing I was curious for your reaction on, though, is when I said I've got conflicting emotions at the moment. One, okay, fine, everything's great, the market's going up, that's nice.
Mm.
I often just like pass over the good part. What about that feeling of anxiety? Like, this was the first day, and I was telling you beforehand, I feel super grateful. I'm not grateful, I'm the one that did it. I went for a run this morning, and it was the first time I've like run in a while, and I feel really great as a consequence of doing that, because I think I always feel better when I do that. But the point is, I feel like this feeling of anxiety is definitely coming over me, and I've spoken about this before. In times when the market starts to get like extra hot, things are moving loads more than they had done before. I start to feel anxiety, frankly, of like trying to make sure that I'm making the right decisions, trying to make sure that I'm maximizing the output and maximizing the gains, and making sure, that you're taking the appropriate amount of risk and not screwing it all up when everyone else is going to make money, and then you'll be the person that makes no money. So I've been like, I've definitely felt that the last couple of days. And in fact, on Saturday, I spent almost all day, or I spent a huge amount of time on one of the days,
Mhm.
uh, in the last few days where I just like went through my whole portfolio again and did like a complete reevaluation of like where things are, what the proportions are, what it all means in Bitcoin, which I've actually haven't really done that part before, like compare what it means in Bitcoin, and whether I should just nuke the whole portfolio now just by Bitcoin if I'm like happy with that number. But curious for your reflections here, Led, because I think a lot of people will be tuning in today, you know, seeing Bitcoin all time high, seeing the alts really starting to move, one like, kind of thinking what's the opportunity, maybe what's the next move, but also feeling like how are we going to manage this when everything gets so crazy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to take profits at some point. Then, if you feel anxious about missing things, probably also think about like when to take profits when it comes to that. Or then the question becomes, if you don't want to take profits, if you'd really be comfortable with even more money in BTC, no matter what BTC does, and just having this as your asset pool, which you're going to borrow against, which you're going to use in a productive way and hold it for the next couple of years, through this bull, through the next bear, into the next bull, and not take profits. Like, do you think about taking profits then in terms of going into fiat or going into BTC? And do you think that this is part of why you feel this anxiety?
It's a good question because I think a lot of people will be wondering the same thing. For me, I really don't think it's the thing about taking profits at the moment, or at least not. It's not at the moment because I do know that feeling. That's a different kind of anxiety when you know that you're overexposed. I'm very very familiar with that kind of anxiety. It happened to me in my first cycle, 100%, where I realized, hang on, wait, what percentage of my portfolio is in NFTs? Not even crypto, in NFTs specifically, because that's how I kind of got to this position by doing a lot of NFTs in 2021, 22. So I'm familiar with that feeling. This one now is more like the thing that I missed this not this cycle, as in I'll say that I missed it because I didn't size it appropriately. Like was the Soul trade, and I was like super loyal to ETH, and I still like ETH a lot for various reasons, but I didn't appreciate it early enough and understand like the sizing. And the thing that I'm anxious about is like I think it's purely just for the game. Like I'm anxious about executing just to perform the trades as you're supposed to trade them like really well. And so when we've spoken about hype, I'm kind of nicely positioned in hype at the moment, and Bitcoin, frankly. So I'm kind of content that as things get hotter, one thing I'm definitely less certain about, and maybe this is when I get more anxious, is like, right, I was super confident in the hype Bitcoin barbell, for example. Like we've been speaking about those two for a long time. Really like my positions there. But then the thinking that I was doing over the weekend was like, where am I going to slice out some for a bit more risk here? Like, if I want to go down further the risk curve, which I wanted to do, where am I going to take it from? Like, what's the right proportion? And I think I just have to do a lot of work, and maybe I overthink it, frankly. Like I've overthought most things in my prior careers. Um, but maybe that's where the anxiety comes from, if that makes any sense at all.
So you basically have FOMO, and you're not invested or allocated enough that you're going to
Yeah.
miss trades. But your portfolio is probably at all-time high, I would assume.
Yes. Yeah. But this is the game, right? This is the game we're playing. So yeah, on some level, things are going nicely, but equally, I think I take trading now, and maybe I didn't think about this before. I do think trading more as like a sport, which you can actually get better at. And for the people who are listening in, honestly, when I was first started investing in my early 20s, I've told this story a couple of, it's not a long story, it's a short story. I was the worst investor ever, like in my early 20s. Everything I bought, the money would go down, didn't know how to hold anything, would only buy things that were like overly hyped on random internet chat forums. Nothing made any sense. And, I think you can get better though over time. And I just think this stuff's a sport now. And I really want to perform well. And that's one of the things I'm like super focused on. So curious for your reflection there, Ledge, and then I see Oxy's got his hand as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I kind of get it. Like my portfolio is nicely allocated, And I don't know. For example, this morning I've been looking at my stuff on Liminal. And Liminal, this is a protocol on Hyperliquid for those who are not familiar with it. We're basically running a delta neutral strategy. So say if you deposit 120K into their BTC pool, it's going to assume a 60K long, it's going to assume a 60K short, and you're basically going to farm the funding rate and earn an 8-9% yield. And as an extension of that, have unit assets, have exposure to Hyperliquid. And the thinking is you have a delta neutral position, you earn a bit of yield and might get a nice airdrop. But I'm not kind of thinking, I don't like to be delta neutral with my Bitcoin. I'm like, do I remove my liminal strategy so I get rid of the damn short on that? And obviously, like, the funding rate, you farm a couple $100 on that if you have a bit of a larger size in there. But I'm like, I don't want to be short Bitcoin as an extension of that. So then I'm thinking the same with Plasma. We did the sale. The public sale is going to come up in 3 days from now. I think it's July 17th. Like, can they please launch a damn chain that I can buy something with that? I don't want to have that many stables sitting idle. So I get the feeling.
Yeah, there's definitely been, I think, a reevaluation process where, so similarly, just for, to the extent anyone's interested, I took some out of liminal as well, because like I need to eat in these stables earning what 10% yield and a potential airdrop is I just see more opportunity liquid at the moment.
Yeah.
I think that's basically the short answer. And so definitely needed to dive into some of the stables in order to try to access the more liquid opportunities for the moment. Oxy, welcome to the stage, my man. What are you thinking here as we kind of reflect on the market getting extra hot on a personal level?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm 100% with you, B-Check, where I feel sidelined, even though I have an astronomical amount of my portfolio in these magic internet tokens. I was just telling my wife the other day, I'm like, I I need to find like more, like obviously, like I obviously have like a strategy to like allocate my like liquid cat, like actual fiat cash, stock portfolio, crypto portfolio. And I'm like, I want to be oversized into crypto, and like, where's that money going to come from? And then similarly on the yield that you guys are talking about with these different protocols, like I'm a big liquidity pool provider, and sometimes it's like a 60% return on providing liquidity to some of these tokens that I'm in, and it's like that still doesn't feel like enough. I should be like I need to earn more because of how bullish everything is. And it's like that's insane. Like, what are you talking about? But it's just like this weird, I don't know. It's the game. I mean, you said it perfectly, B Check. It's just like I feel underexposed to everything, even though I'm probably I don't know. It's just the feeling, I guess. I don't know. It sucks.
Okay. I sympathize, man. I definitely sympathize. Appreciate you sharing your perspective too. Seeing some people in the YouTube comments as well, Notorious Big Bull saying we're all feeling the same thing. I echo the same. Okay, well, Ledge, a couple of thoughts from you, a couple of thoughts from me. How are you? Because I actually do have some strategies to deal with this. I'm just still feeling it anyway. Uh, two thoughts from you, or one or two thoughts from you, one or two thoughts from me. Then we'll hit the headlines as usual. How are we supposed to deal with this?
That's a good question. How are we supposed to deal with this? I think
You want me to go first if you're still thinking?
Yeah, you go first. I'll take it after you.
Okay, so depending on your site, on like your portfolio structure, one of the things I've always thought as an investor is, I'll give an analogy actually. As a content creator, I don't want to be online all the time, which means I don't want to be posting headline news. I don't want to be like having to tweet every 5 seconds. I want to do things a bit more strategically. I want to cover like the crux of things and get the maximal gain with the most minimal effort. And I've always talked about airdrop farming in the same way. And actually, I'm convinced that in crypto, and I believe this is true based on the last 4 years and probably longer, you can capture a maximum amount of gains with few trades. And so that's what I optimize for. And so when I did catch Soul, but not in the size I was supposed to, this time round, I was really focused on what's the next fastest horse? Like what's it going to be? And I think hype emerged as one that was going to be that. And so I think focusing on fewer and going bigger potentially is one way I'm dealing with that like right now, because even in terms of the alt stuff, I'm definitely focusing on fewer and going bigger. And that happened with Hyperliquid. Put Bitcoin aside for a second, because that's just not relevant for this part of the conversation. It's like when you're chasing risk, I mean, Bitcoin for me is okay, fine. There's risk attached to it, but it's not risk in the same way. When you're going down the risk curve, chasing fewer, I think, is one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot. That happened with Hype. It happened with a couple of other things. Ledge, we'll throw it back to you, then maybe I'll come with another.
I think, yes, being invested in fewer things and having like significant bets makes sense. Like the way I like to think about it is, if a bet wins, what does that add to my portfolio? If I have 2% in something and I think this is gonna do a 5x from there, then it's gonna add 10% to my net worth, which is insane. But that still doesn't help me with like this feeling of wanting to do something. So I like to have like smaller gambling funds where I can basically do something all the day. And if I blow that up, it doesn't really matter because the other things are running. And that kind of helps me scratch this itch of wanting to do something. And for me, now this time it has certainly been the stock trading on the one side, where I'm like, yeah, I have my little bag and I'm gonna all in rotate Coinbase, Hood into into SBET, Sharplink Gaming, and all those things. So I feel like I can do something, because in the market like this, if you have picked your positions, and I don't know, Oxy mentioned liquidity providing, and I like providing liquidity, for example, for UBTC, Unit Bitcoin, and Hype itself, because I'm bullish on both assets and I don't really mind if impermanent loss drives me one way or the other. I'm getting exposed more to one or the other, but there's like nothing to actively do with that. And then when you have things to do, like the pump fund sale, which you likely could do geographically speaking, you can ape that with size. But for the interim, when there's like nothing to do on a day, I like to have like this small gambling bag that I take to stocks, that I take to memes, that I play around with. And that kind of gives me the sensation that I'm doing something while not touching the positions that just need to wait and chill.
Yeah, I think that's all good advice. And then I'll just conclude before we get to the main headlines with like a little bit of conflicting advice. Because I think ultimately all advice has to be conflicting in some ways, right? Like there's no perfect answer for this stuff. There's like absolutely no perfect answer. On the one hand, I was going to say, don't compare yourself to anyone else. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Comparing yourself to like other more successful traders who you'd like to be like, but then comparing your net worth to them is gonna destroy your brain. Because the whole point that you aspire to be like them is that you know that's good, that you have like a role model, you think that someone is doing awesome. That's good. Thinking then that you're like allowing that to cloud your decision making, or allowing yourself to size up because you're trying to copy them when you don't have the same portfolio as them, that's criminal. Like that you can't do. Having said that, so look, I think that is true. Also, I think kind of in line with like this investing with imagination idea, I really think that like raise the targets sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like the space is just insane. You got to raise the targets, but then be happy with what you get. I think that's the way to think about it. Like raise the targets, and then whether you get there entirely or not, you're happy with what you get. It's like reach. What's the expression? Reach for the stars. So if you fall, you land on the clouds. Like that is the way I think about investing in the hotter market. It's like, right, things can get really silly. Let's aim for that, and then if we don't get there, then hopefully we're somewhere short of it. So yeah, okay. That was a variety of selections of pieces of thoughts as we deal with the market being exceptionally positive. But I thought I'd take it in a different direction there, kind of dealing with some of the underlying thoughts and feelings we are experiencing as we go through that. But let's get to the main stuff today. We've got a lot of opportunities and price action to discuss. We've got, starting with the majors, Bitcoin up 3%. As I mentioned, up to $122,000. Feels strange to look at, feels strange to say. Hopefully, get used to that. ETH is up a few percent as well, back above 3K. Just for context, Bitcoin's up 12% on the week. ETH is up 19% on the week. can't not say it. XRP is at $3. That's up 7%, outperforming all the others, and it's up 30% on the week, which is also outperforming all the others. We are going to talk about XRP and say its price because it's performing better than everything else. BNB's up a couple of percent, over $700 again. Solana is up a few percent to $167. And our favorite alternative cryptocurrencies, I'm going to throw a shout out to Cardano here, is up 3% as well, up 28% on the week. Hype is up 1% to $48.50. Gosh, almost $50 now. It's pretty nice, up 22% on the week. And then Sui up 15% on the day, up 36% on the week. So Sui outperforming actually everything on the day. Yes, is that right? Yeah, outperforming everything on the week. Pretty impressive there. Into the meme coin side of things, where things are also exploding, we have Doge up 4% to 20 cents. Shib's up 4%. Pepe's up a few percent. Bonk is up 6%. Pengu's up 5%, but up 86% on the week. Absolutely crazy. Just checking this market cap for you. The market cap is now 2.1 bill. So humongous price action there. Maybe we'll touch on Pengu a little bit more in a second because we'll talk about the
insane volume. Sorry for interrupting you. Insane volume on Pengu. Just look at Trump. Trump did 500 million volume. Pengu did 2.2 bill over the last 24 hours. That is more than Pepe. Pepe did 1.8. It's just a shy of Doge's volume, but apart from that, it's dominating the volume game.
And did you see the Penguin NFTs are up to like 14 something ETH now as well?
That is for when we take a look at the NFT side of things.
It just came out of nowhere. It's just gone up like 40%. That's why they're at 10 ETH like 4 days ago or something. Yeah, let's talk about that when you bring up the NFTs then. SPX is up 10% as well. Fartcoin's up 8%. WIF's up 8%. In general, incredibly green day. I think you get the message. Turbo's up 35. Yeah, very, very green across the board in all this stuff. Getting into the headlines themselves, which we will be discussing shortly. Let me just find the headlines and the roundup for you. We have Bitcoin hitting all-time high. Now the world's 5th largest asset, overtaking Amazon. Ledge will break that down in a sec. Got Sharplink Gaming adding 16,300 ETH, worth around $49 million on Sunday, overtaking the ETH Foundation as largest holder of ETH. I believe that's accurate. I need to double check that. And of course, Pump Fund sold out $500 million at a $4 billion valuation in minutes on Saturday. We'll discuss a little bit later what that means for when the token goes live a little bit later this week. I think it's tomorrow or Wednesday. Ledge, what's going on the NFT side? What do we need to know?
It is a very, very green day for NFTs, not only for the Penguins. Obviously, the Penguins are leading that run. They're up 17% on the day, 14.86 ETH for. You said it perfectly. They're up 56% on the week. So they did move an insane amount, still less than the Pengu token, though. Taking a look at the other things, Bored Apes, they are flat on the day. However, they're still up 8.7% on the week, 11.5 ETH floor there. Feels good to do a full NFT roundup again because I haven't done this probably like in months or so because there was just nothing to report on. Doodles are up 18% on the day, above a 1 ETH floor again, 1.07 ETH. That is. Azuki's up 11% to 2.09. Milady's up 8%. Moonbird's up 27% on the day, 0.8 ETH. Punks are also moving up nicely. So it's a very, very green. Like basically, I'm sharing the screen and everything is green except for Kato Genesis NFTs on the week, down 15%, but up 8% on the day. But apart from that, everything is green.
What do we think? Okay, we might as well touch on it now because it's not one of the headlines today. Pudgy Penguins, Pengu, this type of price action. Sure, everything else is super green now. Do you think this is anything related to Abstract at all? Or is this just repricing? Everything's repricing up. This is clearly one of the best brands in crypto, if not the very best. Therefore, it should move. And it was incredibly oversold. How are you making sense of it, Ledge?
No, I think it's too early to be Abstract related. I think the Pengu token moving in maybe conjunction with ETF expectations and everything happening around that end, that I understand. Yes, it's a massive move, but it's so massive, I just think. And ETH is obviously going up at the same time, and everything is going up. So I think if Penguin moves 80%, there's no way that the pudgy NFTs don't do anything. And they have moved up, obviously not to the same extent. But I feel like we had the entire NFT market repricing up like 10-15% over last week. Then you had the bullish momentum for the Penguin token. And that together is, for me, the explanation that really explains part of that price action for the Penguins, and that is coming off that ETF news. I think for abstract, it's too early to see the pump. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm not aware of what's going on the abstract side of things.
Okay, that's interesting. So you think it's ETF related, and maybe there's going to be more, I guess, more expected, either something to do with the ETF or more people coming in via the ETF at some point, people front running that. I saw a note for people to be aware of, which is maybe can I check that now? Let me see. Let me check it now. Apparently a lot of this buying activity, which you've got to keep an eye on all the time, has been done on leverage.
A lot has been done on Blend, on Blur.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things to do for people is do my little NFT lending breakdown. I'm a big NFT lending fan. I think it's literally one of the best advancements in technology that the industry has made, even if it will be applied beyond NFTs in future. But let me just have a look here to see the state of the situation, because you can often tell by looking at the chart what the lending situation, how healthy it looks. So I'm just going to open up the lending chart here. So this is what you can see on the lending chart. I'm just going to share my screen. Which button is that one? They've changed the buttons inside of StreamYard. Here we go. So share. Okay. So what you can see here, guys, for people who are just watching in, don't worry, I will be explaining it. You can see this is actually pretty healthy looking. What you can see is all of these green dots as the price moves up in terms of how much of a loan has been taken. The dots kind of go higher on the graph because the x-axis is the amount of loans, the amount of loan that's been taken, and the y-axis is the interest, APY. And typically, as you go, the more you borrow, the higher interest you pay. Right? That's not a complicated concept to understand. So you get this kind of curve upwards, very low at the bottom, and then the higher interest rate that you borrow, the higher ETH amount you borrow, then the higher interest you need to pay back. And the reason why I say this looks healthy at the moment is because you see this gray line much further down at 14.8. 14.8 is the current floor price, and there's this huge gap between the amount that people are borrowing and the floor price, which means that even if the floor price was to go down 1 ETH, say to 13.8, it means that none of these loans go underwater. Underwater meaning that the amount that they've borrowed exceeds the amount that the floor price is, which means that the lender, because on Blend, the lender can pull the loan at any point in time. They can pull it whenever they want. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I think it's making it difficult for the computers to keep up. And it means that that's what creates the kind of run on the kind of cascading liquidations where the floor price keeps dropping. There's all these loans that are underwater. The lenders keep canceling the loans. The people who own the NFTs don't really want to hold them, so they just keep selling into bids, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And this has happened before with Pudgy Penguins, but it's not just with them, with any NFT collection where people get really levered up. So looks okay at the moment, but I do think a lot of this buying was done with leverage, so it's just something to be aware of. Ledge, any reflections there?
Yeah, it's people like to gamble. The good thing is that they are not over leveraging on that, so we can sustain a bit of a move down. Personally, I still have my pudgy. I'm not trading out of that, not on this move. I'm still like happy to wait for abstract to come and see how that is benefiting pudgy holders. I am out of Pengu. I said it a couple times that I sold it the minute I got the airdrop and never bought back. It is a beautiful run back up. It's also a beautiful run for NFTs. But the only thing I'll do, I'm just going to continue to hold my pudgy and hold the little of Pengu that I still have to qualify for whatever abstract role it is. But apart from that, not really acting on that because I don't fully understand the price movement. So I don't know where we're going. So I'm happy to have the positions that I have.
Okay. Final question on the risk side then. How are you thinking about allocating to these more riskier things, whether it's Pengu or other alts? And maybe side question, why have all the NFTs run? Like, that's something I was confused about. I don't have an answer to you for why Doodles is also up 18% today. Like, I mean, I like Doodles. I think they're cool. But I don't know why the whole NFT market has gone on this big run.
Maybe because ETH is holding 3K for a bit longer than 24 hours. Like, I feel like the first time ETH started to run from 2.4 to 2.5678 NFTs, and we reported on that, were down a bit because people were like flocking into being liquid. But now ETH has been holding 3K for basically an entire weekend, and now money is freshly flowing into other things, as we seem to have established that one ETH is 3K for now.
Okay. I don't
Not the best explanation, to be honest.
Sure.
But don't have anything better to offer here.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, I definitely uncertain as to why that would be the thing that's happening. Interesting point by Blocks in the YouTube or in the Twitter comments, but we can see it on YouTube. Said, "Will make sense once OpenSea token is announced, and they need things pumping." Oh, I don't know if that was in reference to what we were just saying, but maybe even generating some NFT volume might be one of the things that people will want to do at some point in time for OpenSea. So it might not make sense for Pudgy Penguins if that was all bought on leverage, but the rest of the market, it'd be good to see where those NFTs are being purchased, to be fair. We'll have a look at that for another day, I think. Getting in just to the rest of the roundup to get up to speed before we hit the main headlines on Bitcoin, all-time high, Sharplink Gaming, and a couple of other things. We've got Metaplanet buying another 797 Bitcoin for around $94 million. That's a lot of Bitcoin for them. And Amoka Brands will provide up to $100 million in Bitcoin to Asian food giant DDC Enterprise to launch a Bitcoin treasury strategy. Kraken announces it will airdrop some pump tokens to those whose orders did not get filled on the pre-sale. I think Bybit, who was one of the centralized exchanges which didn't get filled at all, I don't think, for the people who are trying to participate in pump, offered a $20 refund or credit for Bybit traders, which I think people did not receive so well on the timeline. And then final point, Pudgy Penguins surged 22% higher to 14.8 floor. Pretty significant. Right. That's the roundup. Legendary. Before, we've only got 20 minutes today. So do you want to get into anything there, or do you want to go straight into whatever breakdown you want to give on what's going on with Bitcoin at the moment and some interesting data points?
I'll say one thing, because we have treasury news again with Metaplanet, with Animoca providing 100 million BTC, as you just mentioned. I started to build a tracker that is.
I thought you were going to say you started to build a treasury.
No, I started my own little treasury, but that doesn't really count. I started to build a tracker, though. A tracker that is trying to get basically as quickly as possible news on treasury announcements, on companies actually having bought BTC or ETH, making a difference whether they're like publicly traded or private companies, because private companies, there's not a lot I can do with them, but public companies announcing that, and then me being able to speculate on some stocks related to that, I think is a fun game to do. So this was my task over the weekend, to vibe code myself a tracker for that.
Did you manage to do it? That sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, it actually works. Yeah.
Nice. Got to see that. Maybe we'll investigate. On the treasury note, just one other bit of news that took place after the snapshot was written. Sonnet BioTherapeutics announced $888 million business combination to launch a hype crypto treasury reserve strategy. This is the combined company expects to become the largest US-based publicly listed company to hold hype in its treasury. Ledger, I think you've got the article there, which you might be able to share.
Yep.
It's some kind of partnership with Paradigm. So they're expected to hold 12.6 million hype, representing 583 million in value. The transaction includes participation by prominent strategic investors, including Paradigm, Galaxy Digital, Pantera, D1 Capital, Republic Digital, and 683 Capital. So this is quite significant, I think. We've obviously seen a couple of hype treasury strategies already as well. And look, hype, we're going to be talking more ETH treasury strategies today as well. This is clearly something that's going to happen across the board. But interesting to see participation here from some very prominent crypto focused funds who are obviously locking into this opportunity while it's hot. I wonder whether, just like we've been talking about, in some ways, it's not the death of crypto VC, but the struggles that crypto VC have had by having to participate in low float, high FTV tokens. I wonder whether this is their way around it. So like, right, we won't do those tokens anymore. Let's get a slice of these treasury companies. But I'd love to see the lockup and the terms, which is not disclosed here, because in the end, that's the main important thing to assess when trying to determine the health of the investment. I think knowing when the people who have invested before you are able to sell is incredibly important information. Ledge, final take there before we do Bitcoin?
Nothing of substance to add to there. So happy to jump into the first news.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. We did go above and beyond 122K. That is, we had the first thing I want to share, 2 massive days, and you made a post on that, be for BTC inflows. Both days, Thursday and Friday last week, above $1 billion, 1.18 and 1.03. On the other side of things, that is the short side of things, we've seen an insane liquidation happening. 1.3 billion that comes via Joe Consorti. 1.3 billion shorts were liquidated in basically a minute, as BTC went from 120K directly to 121, skipped everything in between. As a result of that, you said at the top of the show, as a result of this price move, Bitcoin has also flipped Amazon, becoming the 4th largest asset by market cap. Next target would be Apple. So BTC is at 2.4 trillion, Apple at 3.1, then Microsoft at 3.7, and then Nvidia at 4 trillion. Still like a 9x away from flipping gold. So that would basically need to put BTC at around 1 million for that to happen. Taking a look for what the market thinks Bitcoin could do over the rest of the month, with this polymarket bet that now has $13 million in volume. And the question is, what price will Bitcoin hit in July? It's the middle of the month. 74% of the markets, probably not surprising, think that BTC is going to hit 125K, 37. So that's a good amount more than a third. Think BTC is primed to hit 130K this month. And 9% think we could go to 140K over the next 2 weeks. Another interesting thing to point out, and that is quickly moving away from Bitcoin, is that we've also seen more money going into gold. Gold is up another 0.5%, basically putting the last 6 months at 24, almost 25%. So 1 finance of gold is at 3.37K, almost back to 3.4K. Silver is moving accordingly with that. Then looking at the stock side of things, and this is where for me it gets interesting, is that we had a beautiful week last week, except for the close on Friday where markets went a bit lower. The pre-market now is expected to open a bit lower as well. S&P 500 down 0.35%, Nasdaq futures down 0.4%. If we take a look at some of the individual stocks, with the exception of Sharplink, which we'll touch in its own separate news, Circle had a significant move down. Circle is down 7.5% to 187, has lost the $200. Coinbase, however, is moving quite lovely. It is back to $390 in the pre-market and has had an almost 10% run last week. And it's interesting to see how long Circle has been holding this like $200 mark, and Coinbase has been struggling. But this now has completely shifted, and money is definitely flowing into Coinbase. I think we have a couple. A couple macroeconomic relevant events this week. We have CPI data. We have also some notes to come from the Fed, and I think we also have retail sales data. So all of this is telling me that. Or we also have. Sorry, I forgot that we have Chinese GDP coming for Q2 this week as well, which should be highly impactful for silver prices and silver mining maybe. So we have lots of data points that could either sustain the run that we're currently seeing and point towards a nice and bullish week. We also have bank earnings coming out this week, or if things fall below expectations, stop the show. So I don't think that this is a week where we're going to stay at this price level for all the risk on assets. We're going to either continue this run up, or we're going to correct a bit down depending on what all of those numbers and reports, which there are quite a lot of coming out this week, will basically say.
Interesting. Thanks very much for the summary. Do you know what I've been thinking though? Like, I watched a very interesting podcast with the Forward Guidance guys and Raul Paul. I don't know how to pronounce his name perfectly. And also Julian, the I think, I don't know what they call it, the like senior analyst there, or I don't know what his title is. But they've got so many charts where they kind of talk through the monetary cycles and how things play out when things tighten, and how things play out when things expand and people become more fiscally when people become more loose with monetary policy. And I think one of the core conclusions is probably two things. One, like, we're just probably overanalyzing things sometimes in general. I mean, maybe it's partly our job to do that, and it's kind of fun to do that as a daily show. We are going to dive into like different topics and get into them properly. But then the second thing is that, like, I think we're just moving into a period of time where assets are being given not just permission, but they are being given the push and the blessing from all the people who have their hands on the strings to just like let them go up, because the confluence of various factors, which is, tariffs weakening the dollar. You have the big beautiful bill going through, incredibly increasing the debt ceiling and kind of the spending going up without any real corresponding cuts taking place. You've got immigration kind of slowing, I think, in the States. The border's closed now. That's having an inflationary impact. Although I think inflation's under control, which is another reason for that. Maybe the biggest argument of all is that Powell is either going to be cutting soon, or if he doesn't cut, he's going to be out soon, and then they're going to cut anyway. So rate cutting, entering into a rate cutting cycle is something that just gives all of these things the permission to go off and kind of chase more aggressive risk. Any reflections there, Ledge, or any other thoughts?
Yeah, personally, where I look at all these numbers and charts and find them interesting, from my portfolio strategy, nothing changes at the moment. Even if we might see a dip, I do think that, as you just said, the rate cuts that we'll hopefully still see this year, I think Polymarket sees September rate cuts at roughly a 50% chance right now, will allow to flow into a rally for the end of the year. And I think it's just too volatile market to trade out of your significant positions. Like I have my bag where I do my swing trades and stuff, and that is fun. But just look at what basically the S&P 500 did and how everything collapsed when Trump started to announce tariffs going down 10% on the day, and how quickly we have recovered from that and have set a new all-time high, not only for Bitcoin, but also for the S&P 500. So I think it's very hard in this president's market to be sidelined and not allocated to an extent that you want to be allocated on for a longer period of time, because you'll just miss these significant moves and swings. So I'm happy to continue having all of my long-term exposure. I still will do my swing trades, but that is because I mentioned on the show so frequently, so I feel like it's important to put that in context. That is a relatively small part of my portfolio. That's just fun and games, and it's cool if it goes up, but it doesn't have any impact if I were to lose all of that on my overall portfolio.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's a wise kind of way to split things up, I think. Okay, so that's the general set of thoughts we're having. I'm pretty confident. Well, I don't know 100%. We've just rode this wave up in a very enjoyable way. Pretty comfy, whether it wants to consolidate here a bit, if it wants to just shoot higher. You do get a sense that like people who are sidelined are really having to jump in now. And the thing is, if you've maybe there's a lot of resistance in the 100 to 110 area, people wanted to get out, but like now that you're past that, if you really loaded up in the 100 110 area, you got to sell at 120. Like, what's the point? If you're, I mean, I know we identify treasury companies as a risky thing, but like if you're buying at 100, you didn't buy at 100 to sell at 120, did you? So like it's kind of been a little bit of a resetting of the cost basis. I completely appreciate loads and loads of other people bought way lower, so I'm not saying it's completely reset, but these bigger players who are buying in now, not buying at 110 in order to sell at 120, I don't think. So let's see. That's just some of my thinking there. Oxy, come in with your take before we get to the next headline.
Yeah, thanks. And correct me if I'm wrong, Legendary, but I think essentially what the guys are trying to say is like don't overtrade, like don't max leverage, don't overtrade max leverage and just like chop yourself up just trying to like because you're feeling this insane amount of FOMO. Like there will be consolidation, there will be chances for you to get in at better prices. Like it's so easy to get caught up in CT and the euphoria that's going on and just you're like, okay, I need exposure, Bitcoin leverage on hyperliquid or what have you. Like there will be opportunities. Don't just chop up your entire portfolio just because CT says nothing's ever going to come back down again, because there's always better opportunities to buy after these huge run-ups.
Yeah, we love those posts on X. This is probably the last time that you've seen ETH under 3K. This was your last chance last week to buy ETH under 3K. CT is definitely very good at driving FOMO with posts like that.
Indeed. So you've got to keep an eye out for those. Look, let me just do the ETH headline quickly, Ledge, because we also need to talk fun. We're running out of time today, as usual at the moment, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Just a quick one on Sharplink Gaming. This is the SBET token. They bought nearly $49 million worth of ETH into their corporate treasury. This is obviously the Joseph Lubin-led Sharplink Gaming. The purchase brings the company's unofficial total holdings to 270,000 ETH. And I believe that took them past the Ethereum Foundation to become the team with the most ETH. Actually, we've got the link here, Ledge, if you want to share that. The Strategic ETH Reserve site shows who has the most ETH. So that is not the case just yet. You have Ethereum Foundation with 242,000 ETH, which is $743 million. Sharplink Gaming now has 216,000. That is 662 million. So about $80 million off at the moment. And then you've got a few other people who have very high holdings. Coinbase having about half of what Sharplink Gaming has. Golem Foundation, Bit Digital, US government, number 8. Did not know that. US government coming in with the strategic ETH reserve at number 8. But maybe just a quick question here, Legendary. We spoke about SBET, and I was asking the guys on the show, should I sell it? Should I sell my Coinbase for SBET? Should I do it? If I want to try to feel something, because I've said my stock portfolio is a smaller part of my overall portfolio, and I did it. Did it on Friday. Sold all of my coin. Bought SBET up. I don't know, 20 something percent. I don't think coin has done that just yet. So I think it was a decent trade. What do you make of that, Legendary?
I'm very happy because I bought on the show, if you recall, and I'm up, checking my portfolio, 21% on that, which is quite lovely. And the interesting thing is, so let's take a look at this chart quickly. 21.65 for SBET, up 16% on the pre-market to $25. But if you go back to this strategy side, or actually you can stay on here as well, you can see that the market cap for Sharplink is 1.55 billion, and they hold 660 mil worth of ETH. So that's only like a 2x multiplier on the net asset value. It's actually, I mean, obviously, like if you buy this to buy ETH, you are paying 6K per ETH. But looking at the net asset multipliers or NAV multipliers for other companies, even MicroStrategy or that company that bought Hype, that is what, as far as treasury companies go, quite a good ratio. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous to say it like that, but it's a good ratio. Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting point, isn't it? Because that's one of the big things people are trying to figure out about treasury companies. How long will there be this premium attached to it? Say you only hold $600 million of ETH. Why is your market cap 1.5 bill? Can you justify that? Will that gap last? If that gap disappears, then there will be no more treasury companies because there's just no point, right? The point is they're able to capture this premium at the moment. Interesting. So yeah, I mean, me and you are in this trade. I kind of shared the idea on Friday. I like the idea because I don't have a lot of ETH exposure. Well, I don't have as much ETH exposure as before, and I thought this would be a fun way to get started. A bit of a fun one for me rather than anything super serious. But I just feel like the market's ready for just a bit of silliness, even on the stock side, right? Because we were talking about how a lot of stocks are going to start to behave like meme coins, and that was a kind of our thesis, and this kind of fitted the profile of the type of trade that I was looking for. So let's see how that one runs. It's not my main thing in my portfolio, but interesting to share some thoughts there. Right, final one we got to touch on because this is a big one over the weekend. Felt like it was a really long time ago. The pump fund sellout, Legendary. It happened fast. What was the details that we need to know, and what do we need to know thinking for the next 24, 48 hours as this token then goes live?
Yes, absolutely. Pump Fund did sell out in a bit more than 10 minutes. That was a $500 million sale valued at $4 billion. Basically, you could participate via Pump Fund's own site where you had to KYC, or a series of exchanges, including Bybit, Kraken, and KuCoin. The majority of the volume did come, unsurprisingly, through Pump Fund's site directly. As I said, it did go in 10 to 12 minutes. However, and you pointed out last week, the token is not tradable yet. Pump Fund also made a post on that that was after the sale. During the next 48 to 72 hours, all tokens purchased via tokenpump.fund or the participating exchanges will be transferred to participants. The tokens will initially be untradable and untransferable whilst this distribution phase is carried out. And after that, then the token, and only then will it become tradable. So just looking back, that happened on Saturday at 4 p.m. CET. So the earliest we could see basically this distribution happening is 2 hours from now. Could also be tomorrow that we see trading starting, depending on how long it also takes to distribute to all the exchanges. So that's just important to keep in mind, that there is no official tradable pump token just yet. However, there is a very, very active pre-market that is, of course, on Hyperliquid that did another $300 million in 24-hour volume, where pump is currently trading at $6 billion. It was extremely volatile. Did go as high as 7 bill for a candle, spiked again to 7 bill, went down to 5 bill. So probably a lot of people who got liquidated on either shorting or longing that. But this is a very, very active market and currently is trading at 50% above the value of the sale. B, you're muted.
Nice. Very, very helpful summary. As you say, the Hyperliquid market, the Hyperliquid pre-market has captured all the volume for this, which I think is maybe one point to make, right? Hypes is now back to 40 or past all-time high towards $49, probably at least on the back of this incredible capture that they have of price discovery of a new token. Like, the thing that I thought as this was happening was, this is going to happen now for every big launch. Hype is going to list it on a pre-market before it launches. Everyone in the whole of the space is going to speculate on with the perps on Hyperliquid. Pretty incredible that everyone's just decided, like, right, this is the place we're going to go to now kind of predict and make our prediction on where this token is going to come out at. So huge win for Hyperliquid in that respect. Any reflections on Hyperliquid for you, Legendary? And then thinking forward, because we're running out of time, what do you think about the pump fund sellout? And do you think 6 bill is fair value at the moment, or what do you think?
Yeah, first of all, on Hyperliquid, just putting this again in perspective with Coinbase, the perps there, 160K in 24-hour volume, 188K in total open interest. This,
yes,
and 300 mil on Hyperliquid. Just think about all the times on the show when we spoke about the TG that is about to happen, and we said, oh, on Whales Market it's trading at XYZ, but data is basically not relevant because it's only 10K in volume. And then we were like happy. We were happy and could say there's 4 million. There's like serious volume happening on the Whales Market. And now you have 300 mil, basically almost like 100xing some of the more active markets on Whales. I mean, obviously Pump.fund sees way more demand. This is why I wanted to put it also in perspective with the perps on Coinbase. But what a beautiful, what a beautiful segment of the market to fulfill. Like, this hasn't existed to that extent in the past in crypto, that you could have such a big market to speculate on what a token price will be once it launches a couple of days from now. Not with that amount of volume, not with that amount of open interest that is happening. I don't know if you like it as a team or not. If you're a pump fund, do you like that? Do you like seeing hundreds of millions already being speculated on your token price? I mean, in this case, you probably like it because it's up 50%. But generally, I don't know how, if I were to have such a big TGE, how I would feel as someone working on that team, seeing that a market like that exists. As a trader, I absolutely love it and I had fun with it. But I don't know if all teams like the pre-market speculation.
I completely know what you mean. Like, what if they want to launch way higher potentially?
Yeah,
like, teams basically decide where they launch. Right?
8 bill. Yeah,
like teams decide where they launch. So I just believe at this point in time, the market can say whatever it wants. I believe that they will launch higher based on nothing other than, that's just what I think. I think they want this to be, they want to, I think this is one of the better tokens that you can have exposure to in crypto. So like, it's not going to be at 4, is it? It's not going to go, and I think the market demand has shown that it's going to be higher. I just don't think 6 is high enough at all for it. And then, yeah, it must feel weird as a team being like, well, we thought, look, and we're speculating here, right? But we thought we should come out at 10, just for example. And just for context, the thing that I was thinking while I was thinking through this in my own head, like a few days ago, was Movement Labs came out at 10 billion United States fully diluted dollars, fully diluted value. But 10 billion Movement Labs. You think Pump can't come out at 10? Like, again, it depends on strategy, depends what they want to do. Do they want to bring it low, let people buy it up, or do they want to just bring it out in the headline at 10? I don't know 100%. But that was like one of my pieces of thinking when I was thinking about the number. But yeah, I guess it's kind of odd to see all of that price discovery captured, and then maybe you deciding, like, wait, are you sure we can launch at 10 if the pre-market say we're at 6? I'm not sure. Want to bring Carpenter into the conversation, good friend of the show and streaming on Pump Fun. Carp, welcome to the stage, my man. What is your take here as someone who's been quite involved with Pump?
Good morning, and sorry again for last week about the whole mic thing. But yeah, so I wanted to touch on, like you said, the Pump Fun stuff. And one, I feel like they are really going to lean into this streaming, which is why the acquisition kind of threw me off a little bit, I guess. I kind of assumed in talking to other people who stream or have used Pump based on their announcements or like just kind of the direction they were going, thought it would be more of a like streaming based acquisition. But seeing that they are going more to the social, which kind of fits in with the streaming as well. Also, kind of from the inside look as a streamer, they are really, I feel like they're really going to lean into the streaming as well moving forward, because like just right out of the gate, when they wanted me to start streaming over there, they gave me clippers, graphic designers, and all this stuff. Which I'm assuming all the streamers are getting that, like not all of them, but the ones that are like actually working with them. And then
Sure.
Also with the TGE and stuff, I'm kind of thinking that they are going to, like when it came to the stream, I know it was brought up last week on the show, that, or maybe, yeah, it was early last week when they came out with the tokenomics of giving 3% to streamers. I'm almost wondering, remember how they were they're the live streaming platform, and then it like got banned or whatever, or they shut it down, and then it came back, right? So I'm wondering if those aren't also going to be like, if it's the streamers not like officially with Pump, but any streamer, which if that's the case, there'll be quite a few more streamers getting airdropped. And then also, like, I feel like that'll cause like a temporary downturn in it, which generally on TGE kind of does go down a little bit, but
Sure.
that's where I'll be kind of looking to buy.
Like it. Interesting. Yeah, thanks for the additional thoughts as someone who's been like working with them. The thing that I'm thinking is, as far as it relates to streamers, because I've given some thought to that direction of the business, is I think it's going to be an incredible war chest, isn't it? Like, if you want to kill some of those people, those, kill Facebook, kill Snapchat, kill Twitch, or whatever the various social media groups, you're going to need a lot of capital to incentivize people to come over. Or, you don't need a lot of capital to come over. Sometimes your product can be good enough, but if you have it, it's not going to hurt, right? So I wonder whether a lot of that supply is going to be held back in order to incentivize people to come over and participate and produce content and be rewarded through meritocracy via like however many views you get, however many interactions you get, or whatever. So I'm definitely keeping an eye out on that, given that we are streamers as well in some respect. Legendary, as we close out the show, I told the person in the Apple shop, I bought a new laptop the other day. I told, she asked what I did, and I said, for the first time, I don't know why I said it necessarily, because usually I say I run a show, but I said I was a streamer, and she got really excited. She's like, oh, that's like so cool. And I was like, she was like, oh, what do you stream about? I said, oh, it's like a financial market show. Her face dropped.
Oh, you should have said gambling.
She said, she thought it'd be like Kai Cenat or something. And then that was the end of the conversation. She was just like not interested at all. once the reality of the nature of the show came out. But there we go. So maybe we are streamers now, especially if it comes with very, very hyper lucrative rewards. So I'll put my hat in the ring for those potentially. Right. Ledge, we've run over. Again, we're running over quite a lot today, but there's a lot to talk about. Any final thoughts before we close today?
Will we be streaming the show on Pump Fun one day?
That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think? Would you do it?
If we don't have to launch a token for that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, right? Like, I think people need to be given the freedom as creators to decide if they want to launch something or not. It can't be purely like mandated. But then there's also like a branding thing. Like, does it make sense for all different types of creators to stream on Pump Fun versus other platforms? I know a lot of people moved over to Kick recently. Is that maybe more on brand for certain people? Is YouTube like old and boring now? I don't know. I kind of like YouTube. I think it does the job. There's a lot of people on YouTube. I'm definitely never going to turn my back on YouTube completely, but maybe as a live streaming platform, it's not as good as the others. So we will see. We will discuss. We will see. We'll see how things goes. Either way, we'll be trying to assess the best opportunities for us and everyone. As usual, just a reminder, friends, do this show every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and maybe somewhere else in future. I don't know. You can catch us up, catch up with us on Apple and Spotify podcasts too, if you prefer content from there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Oxy and Carpenter for their contributions. Thanks to Led for co-hosting. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.